All right, as we look at question number 1, it says, an unlit candle was laid on a table directly in front of a hot fireplace. Now, immediately when I see directly in front of, not on top of, in front of a fireplace, Jimmy, what do you automatically think of when I say in front of a fireplace? Yeah, I'm thinking radiation, and I'm just going to put an R here because, well, that's radiation for me right now. What most likely happened explains why the candle melted. Okay, so in my head, these are the kind of pictures that kind of pop into my head. I've got a fireplace and a candle. I know, because we've talked about it, that heat travels in waves from the sun, and it travels in waves from campfires, especially beside the campfire. Above the campfire is a different story. From the fire, because heat moves from the warmer object to the colder object, right? From the fire to the candle, causing the candle to melt. And I can imagine that happening in my house. So I have to think about the 4 answer choices that they gave me. And if it doesn't say radiation, I'm probably not going to be a big fan of the answer. So when I look at A, it says heat energy from the fire was radiated through the air into the candle. Do I like A? Yeah. I mean, I like A. It's going to be a really, really good answer to change my answer from A. Heat energy from the fire was conducted. I'm going to go ahead and stop. I don't need to read anymore because fires and conduction really don't go together well. Heat energy from the fire was radiated through the floor. That doesn't make sense, does it? We didn't talk about heat moving through the floor. The sun doesn't heat up the floor and then heat us up. That's not how it works. Heat energy moves through the air, so that's not my answer. And then this one says heat energy from the fire was conducted. I don't need to answer that. Now, I know that we've talked about how to interact with the test. Every single test that I've done, I've always done one of these reviews, right? Have I done anything different? Raise your hand if interacting with the test and annotating on the test, if you want to call it that, the way that I do, has helped improve your grades in science. Okay, some people have their hands up, some people don't, and that's okay. It just helps me to eliminate those answers, especially when you have those crazy ones when there's 2 good answers. I'm not a fan of those. All right, so question number 2. What is the original source of most of the energy that people use? Now, this goes back all the way to ecosystem, doesn't it? What's the main source of energy? Well, we know the answer is the sun, but now when I say the sun, something new pops into my head. What word pops into your head, Dalen, when I say the sun? Radiation, right? So I'm going to put an R beside the sun. Now, energy... What? I drew all these. This is what I would be doing on my test. Energy that reaches the Earth's surface by radiation from the sun. Does A sound like a good answer? Okay, I like that. I'm going to check all my answers, though. Energy that reaches the Earth's surface by convection from the sun. Is that what we've talked about? No, it's not hot air and hot water. Energy that reaches the Earth's surface by radiation from the Earth's core. Have we talked about the Earth's core this year? Probably not going to be the answer then. Energy that reaches Earth's surface by conduction from the Earth's core. No. So 2 answers in a row. It turns out that our best answer is the first answer. And that's okay. Not a big deal. Any questions so far? 1 and 2, pretty easy, right?
Yes.
Okay. They get a little harder. There's a couple tricky ones in here we'll talk about. 3. Anya placed an ice cube on the sidewalk. There's the ice cube if you can't see it. It's just not a pair of Crocs, I promise. The ice cube soon melted. Now, if I just said, Parker, putting an ice cube on the sidewalk, what heat transfer already comes to mind for you? Yeah, the ice cube is touching the sidewalk, so I can't just put a C like I did with radiation. I have to put C-O-N and I have to put the D on there because it was C-O-N-V, convection, C-O-N-D for conduction, right? Just abbreviate. Now, heat transferred through the ice cube by convection. Is that what you said? No. And I don't like that. Heat transferred from the air to the ice cube by radiation. No. This is one of those that gets a little tricky, and I would probably take this one off of the test. because I think it could really confuse people. Heat transferred from the air and the pavement by conduction. Well, it has that word that you use, so I'm going to at least keep that one. Heat transferred through the ice cube into the pavement. We said heat moves from the warmer object to the colder object, so that eliminates D. And I know a lot of people said, Mr. Bullens, it said heat transferred from the air. Why doesn't it say convection? I don't know why they didn't put convection in there. I think they should have added the word convection. If you're going to talk about heat transferring from the air or from water, I think you should put convection. And if I were to have this as a question on the test, I would edit that answer to have convection. But you can see we eliminated 3 that were obviously not the right answer, right? I know some people on the benchmarks would call me over, Mr. Bullens, I don't see a good answer. Well, there's always an answer on there. You just might not be getting the right answer at the time, right? But if you can eliminate nonsense answers, and this one clearly tells you that that's the right answer, right? So pretty easy to go. 4, not going to spend a ton of time on this, although I did put a picture on there to kind of remind me of what's going on. Which color reflects heat radiation the best? White's the answer, Keegan, and we talked about this yesterday when Dave and Cody were in the snow in dual survival. And snow reflects about 80%. See how all this light that's being reflected off of the white? The snow does the same thing, and that's why you need those goggles. You need to keep your eyes covered when you're in the snow. It's almost even more dangerous to be outside in the snow on a sunny day than just being outside on the beach, because all that light's getting reflected right off on you. Who's ever been fishing and gotten like sunburn on their face? A lot of that's because they get reflected off the water. You keep sunglasses on when you go outside and go in the water too. All right, number 5. What conditions are necessary for heat conduction to occur between 2 objects? I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I don't like this question at all. Because the objects must be surrounded by air or water. I think that must be is what eliminates this answer. Do they have to be surrounded by air and water? No, they can be, but it's not a must. But that's a little tricky for 5th graders, I think. So I don't like that answer. 2 objects at different temperatures are touching one another. Is that necessary for heat? Heat conduction. 2 objects touching each other. Yes. 2 objects at different temperatures are located close to one another. No. You have to be touching in order to have conduction, right? 1 object must emit energy as light and heat, and another object absorbs the energy. And again, some kids in the last class got confused on that. Yes, I know the colder object is having the heat transferred to it, but again, that must emit energy as light is not a must. We could put an ice cube in our hands and there's no light being emitted, right? But there's still heat transfer from conduction because 2 things are touching. Hard question with the way the answers are worded, right? But it's when you see the word conduction, it has to be B because 2 objects are touching one another. Just be careful with that one. I think with the picture that I have on here, I think it's pretty obvious what the answer is. But I'm going to make you answer the other ones just in case. Which of these is an example of convection? What about the heat coming from a campfire? Typically our answer is what, Bianca? Radiation. We know that a spoon becoming warm in a bowl of soup is conduction. There's touching going on there. Although I can understand if someone said convection on that one. But warmer water at the surface of a pool, we watched this yesterday, right? Hot water rises and cold water sinks. And like I told the last class, if you've ever jumped off the top of the high dive, yes, the water at the bottom of the pool is noticeably colder, not drastically colder, it's just noticeably colder than at the top. And that's because of those convection cells that are going on. Number 7, which is an example of heat transfer by convection. Okay, we've said that a light bulb, if you get near a light bulb and you feel the heat, what is that, Garrett? That's radiation. What is the heating of the atmosphere? Heating of the atmosphere. Heating of the air in the atmosphere. That might help some people. I agree with you, Parker. I think I'm going to just do CV for convection. And you see over here I have this convection current drawn. The ground gets hot, the air rises above it, and the cold air sinks down below it. Microwave oven class is radiation. Heating a piece of metal in a flame. I mean, it depends on where you are at the flame. If you're above the flame, convection. If you're beside the flame, radiation. But there at no point, or maybe I guess you could say conduction too if it's touching the flame. But there's too many answers in there, right? We know that the heating of the atmosphere, I mean, that was like part of our definition, wasn't it? The heating of the atmosphere. So I would answer B on this one. Mrs. Warren's class on number 8 is learning about heat transfer. Her class observes pot of boiling water. I'm going to just stop there. Once we say pot of boiling water, I'm going to come back to this in a few minutes too, because I'm going to tell you now, I have a huge issue with one of the questions that they put on here in the answer choice that they said. Pot of boiling water. Convection. What are we going to say? Convection. You can even see the convection going on here. If you type in pot of boiling water on Google and put the word convection beside it, 10,000 pictures show up. Okay? And remember this, because it's important later on. The answer is convection. Later on, they try to tell us it's conduction, and that's not the right answer. And I don't think it was this one. I think it's like number 12, but I'll figure that out for you just a second. It's not convection. I'm sorry. Yes, convection on this one. Convection. I'm getting confused on the other one. All right.
Yeah, it is.
It's number 12. Yeah, number 12 is the one I was mad at. Okay. How many times have we said ice melting in someone's hand in this classroom? Probably 50. You agree with that? So, Cruz, when I say ice melting in a hand, what word am I looking for? I'm looking for conduction, so guess what? Radiation, and radiation, I'm getting rid of C, and I'm getting rid of A before I even read them, because they're not the right answer. The heat from a person's hand transfers by conduction to the ice. That sounds good, doesn't it, Addie? What about D, though? The cool temperature of the ice transfers to a person's hand, cooling it off. We say the ice made my hand cold, don't we? That's what we say, but now we all know that my hand got cold because the heat from my hand transferred to the ice. Now there's like this long process. Yes, it's okay for you to say the ice made my hand cold, but you know the process is because the heat transferred from your hand to the ice. Number 10, and I'm going to stop this video and make it a double video, it looks like. Bacon is frying. I'm not even going to go any further, Mason. Bacon frying, we're probably talking about COND, because we've mentioned that. That was even one of our examples on our notes, right? The bacon creates a convection current. No. The bacon transfers heat to the pan. Typically, when I put bacon in the pan, the bacon's cold. Yeah. Right? So that can't be the answer. The stove burner radiates heat to the pan, and the pan radiates heat. We're using the word radiation, which is not what you said, right, sir? So I don't like this one. The word conduction never shows up in your answer. The stove burner transfers heat directly to the pan, and the pan directly transfers heat to the bacon, which is conduction, but it doesn't say the word conduction. Don't be afraid when you know the right answer. We've eliminated those other two. They can't be correct. Does that make sense? All right. We're going to